1.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Vilnius Tech Leads Meetup. First, for those of you for the first time at Vilnius Tech Leads, a short intro on what the Tech Leads group is. We're a meetup group for technical leaders. You could probably guess that from the name. We believe that leadership is something you learn, not something you're born with. If you're a technical leader, from CTO to a tech lead in a team, or considering becoming one, we're the meetup group for you. Each of our meetups has a theme, a topic. We pick topics that are relevant for technical leaders, of course. Over the years, we've discussed many different topics: agile, informal leadership, cloud, time management, change management, delegation, and many others. We hear stories from 2-3 speakers on each of those topics during these meetups. Today's meetup is no different. The theme for today's meetup is security. In ancient times, everyone inevitably protected the most valuable assets like gold, land, food, etc. In our modern society, the main asset we have, one of the main assets we have, is information. So we protect it too, and not only that, we empower it to make the best use of it. Information is everywhere, which makes information security an essential part of any organization. During today's meetup, you'll hear stories about security. Today we're going to hear from 3 speakers. That's Vytautas, Markas, and Tal. And if you're watching this meetup live and you have questions to the speakers during their presentations, please write those questions in the YouTube chat. After the presentation is finished, I'll read those questions to the speakers. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce Vytautas. Vytautas, the mic is yours.
Hello, and thanks, Mindaugas, and hello, everybody. So I'll start sharing the slides. Let me know if we don't show up, but
looks great.
Yeah, so my name is Vytautas, and I'm currently working as security engineering team lead at Vinted. And I'll try talking about some internal struggles which security teams encounter when fighting phishing. Of course, there have been many posts and presentations about the dangers of phishing, often incited by nefarious attacks or a victim suffering a tremendous loss. And usually those news or presentations are followed by an advice not to click on links and report suspicious messages. However, what you don't often hear about is the defender's perspective, because defenders' efforts largely remain invisible, especially if they are successful. So in this short talk, I'll try to shed a small light on what actually happens at the backstage. But before I begin, I would like to clarify a few things. First of all, let's define what is phishing. There are a few types of phishing attacks. However, for the sake of clarity and brevity, I will only talk about the generic phishing affecting most of us, and Wikipedia defines it as a fraudulent attempt to obtain sensitive information or data, such as usernames, passwords, credit card numbers, or other sensitive details. And this is done by impersonating oneself as a trustworthy entity and using digital communications to spread those messages. So the most popular channel for phishing is email, but it could also be SMS, messages in social platforms, and other communications pretending to be from somebody else. And those communications usually carry a link to a malicious website, which tries to trick you into providing some sensitive information. Secondly, I will only be focusing on customer protection. A lot of information is regarding employee protection. However, it has important differences, and I will not be including those aspects in this presentation. So you probably recognize all of these brands globally and in Lithuania. And the common theme here is not that the logotypes look good on a direct background. All of these names and many more are being used in phishing attacks every day. And the security teams behind those corporations have to respond in an attempt to protect their customers. For almost 18 years, I've been working in such security teams and will try to share some struggles we faced when trying to tackle phishing and other threats. So the response usually starts when a phishing attack abusing our brand has already happened and somebody has reported. You might see a lot of theoretical information that the response starts with identification and things like that, but it usually starts with a report. And regardless if it's a first attack or one of many, once it's detected, two questions are asked almost every time. First is, what is the extent of the attack? And second is, what can we do about it? So probably one of the simplest ways to determine the extent of the attack is by counting the number of reports. Yeah, that's quite an easy and quantifiable thing. However, that number might fail to reflect its if the total number of customers is greater or the same or just a few. Especially this is difficult if the phishing messages are sent to a personal email address or telephone number via SMS. So security teams basically have no way to measure how many such personal messages have been delivered. All they have is just the number of reports from victims who are most likely to complain or vigilant customers. There might even be attacks which nobody bothered to report. So does that mean that there was no phishing attack? So the question about the extent of the attack is, in most cases, might remain unanswered. Second question, what do we do about it? Everybody expects for the brands to deal with the attack and prevent the loss immediately. Quite similarly, we might expect the firemen to put out fires the minute we start. That's just not practical. So what can security teams actually do? They could probably warn their customers. Since it is unknown who and how many have been targeted, do you think it would be reasonable to contact all the customers? Or that might just scare them needlessly. You could be a little bit more subtle and warn the customers on front page. But once again, it creates a scare and affected customers are likely to see it only after the data was already stolen. Not exactly a nice greeting for the first page for any company. So the obvious suggestion is to close down the website. The security teams can contact the hosting provider and ask to shut it down. But unfortunately, by the time it will react, the damage will be already done. A faster option might be to report the sites to various blacklists, including ones that web browsers use. However, even if the process is automated, it still takes a few hours to verify and propagate before the visitors of a malicious site start seeing a warning. I have also seen an offensive response of filling the phishing forms with fake data in order to confuse or to slow down the malicious actors. But you have to be ready for this and have tools tailored for a specific group of actors using specific phishing kits. Of course, even if successfully executed, this is just a minor nuisance to the attackers. Eventually, we will separate the wheat from the chaff. There are other options, but let's admit, once the phishing message has reached the victims, unless there is a way to quickly take down the website, the security team has basically lost this round. What remains is actually to learn from it, improve, and be better prepared for next time another phishing attack hits. So it's easy to see that time is a crucial factor for any successful response. Sometimes, if you are lucky and the crooks are sloppy, we can actually detect the response and respond to phishing attacks before the messages are distributed to the victims. So here are a few ways how we can do it. In general, when you click on a link which takes you to another page, the address of the previous page is usually included in the request. It's called a referrer address. So if a malicious actor is sloppy and is testing his newly prepared phishing page, he might click on a link and go to the original page which he's impersonating. This is one of the things which happens quite often with the phishing kits. They end up in the original page. So by testing it, he might be revealing his referrer address, the original phishing page. And if the security teams are monitoring that, they might detect it. Also, the referrer addresses might be used to estimate how many potential victims we have visited the phishing page. But unfortunately, not everything is as nice as we would like it to be. Some challenges with such methods are like trying to find the odd phishing referrer amongst many visitors which reach your page. This is basically finding a needle in a haystack. Secondly, it's a privacy issue, and naturally referrer addresses can be hidden if anybody chooses to do that. So not a foolproof method as well. And thirdly, the referrers become visible once the site is already up, and since time is of the essence, there is not too much of time to actually react before the emails are likely to be sent out to the victims. Another way to detect malicious sites early on is called certificate transparency. Encryption has become a must for many websites, and crooks not only utilize it to seem more legit, but simply to avoid the non-secure warning in the browser. Since late April 2018, Chrome browser now requires that all website certificates must be present in a certificate transparency log. And this log is publicly accessible, and security teams can use that to detect new sites popping up within basically seconds or minutes. I'll try to do a small demo of that. Let's see how it works and how you as well can do that. So I'll just visit one of the sites which provides insight into it. Click connect, and here you can see in almost real time certificates being issued and registered by anybody. And if you watch it long enough, you can probably see some shady names and obvious phishing attempts to exploit the trust maybe provided by the certificates. So yeah, that's just one of the means security teams can use and detect the phishing, sometimes even before they are started. Of course, neither of those methods is foolproof, but it's something a responder can do and try to reduce the loss for the customers early on, not waiting for the reports to reach them. So dealing with phishing, like many other security threats, is a never-ending story. It's like chasing away all the street crooks and hoping they will never come back. They will be back and probably carrying some new tricks. The first attack is the most expensive for the attackers because they need to develop the tools for particular brands. But once they have a phishing kit complete, it's getting cheaper and cheaper, and especially if they are unimpeded and successful, that's a powerful motivator for them to come back again and again and again. But similarly, for security teams, the first attack is usually the most difficult to deal with. But with each subsequent attack, security teams also learn how to respond faster and more efficiently. But it's also quite an odd threat. Except for the trusted brand name, there is no relation to the organization or its services. Furthermore, there is no direct loss to the organization, and the loss is mostly experienced by the customer. So global phishing statistics are not helping also to determine is it a real threat or not. Global statistics are showing basic trends which are too distant and too generic. So given those two aspects, how do you justify the resources needed to continuously fight with phishing? For example, at Vinted, we are closely monitoring one of the malicious actors who usually target roughly 200 of our customers with each campaign, with a few campaigns per month. Is that a significant number? And is it significant if we take, for example, that Vinted has around 37 millions of users? So 200 of 37 millions. Of course, nobody wants an open season against their customers. You do need that bored security guard strolling along the aisles in the shop to deter the thieves. But phishing is not the only threat. There are others, less obvious but more dangerous security risks, which might get overlooked in the meantime. I don't think there is a simple answer here. My experience, it was especially hard to compete for developer time. So when we were dealing with phishing, most of the time, capabilities to fight threats like phishing depended mostly on the competences within the security teams. So that's basically it. So conclusions I think you can make yourselves. That's just a small aspect, one of the cyber threats which we face daily, quite an odd one, but security teams which you don't always see do also struggle. For you as a customer or a bystander, that struggle is not visible. But the teams need to do a job we are expected to do it fast, to prevent loss, to find the resources to fight the crime and continue fighting. So it's a thankless job, which when you fail, nobody likes you, and if you succeed, nobody notices you. So that's it in short about phishing and some of the aspects of dealing with it. Okay.
Thank you, Vytautas. First question, have you ever been personally attacked by phishing? By personally I mean not as a security person, but personally as Vytautas.
I've received phishing emails trying to attack me, but probably most of us have, because a lot of times those phishing emails are quite generic, with targeting at the larger audience, hoping to catch somebody. It's like throwing a net into a pond and trying to catch as many fish as you can. Of course, I might have failed to detect a phishing attack against me and might think that I have not been attacked personally. So that's always an option. So, but not to my knowledge yet.
Okay, clear. And another question, how would you compare phishing in difficulty to secure versus other types of security threats?
Well, it depends on what you are trying to secure. Phishing is quite a noisy thing, and usually with phishing, we try to secure customers. Other security threats might be targeting employees or organizations' infrastructure or partners. So there are very difficult details related to all of these attacks, and it's quite difficult to compare them.
Okay. We have one more question about another type of threat, scamming. So the person asks, what do you think about scamming? In trying to secure against scamming, do you think that it's worth engaging with the scammer to get more information?
Engaging with the malicious actors is always a two-sided sword. From one side, it's something people are quite eager to do. Now I'll get him. But from the other side, the scammers are usually used to that much more than you. They might try to get more interest into you. You might not have operational security as good as you might think. So as much as you would like to do that, I would recommend against that. It's not a safe thing to do, and even if you succeed, the result will be quite limited because you have limited power to actually follow up on the threat and make some change, which would be significant. So when we try to deal with scams, phishing, or something else, we try to keep low profile, because first of all, if the phisher is or scammer doesn't know that he's being watched, he's much more sloppy, and that makes our job easier. And if there is a need to actually confront him, when we turn to law enforcement, who can handle it in a proper way.
Okay. Thank you, Vytautas. These are all the questions that we had. Now, I'm gonna invite Markas and Tal to give their presentation. As soon as you can, as soon as you are ready, you can begin.
Great, thank you for that. So Tal will show presentation in a second. Yeah, great, thank you. So first of all, thank you, organizer, for inviting us, and Vinted, your team, you're doing a great job hosting these events. So my part of presentation will be introduction and then summary. So main star here and presenter will follow me in a few minutes. But I may say it's not quite a deep technical. It's not about technical stuff. It's about leadership more and about vision. So. And I will put this presentation on my part a little bit personally, and because it's personal view, so I would rather say that you know, it's my view of this case, and it's my personal understanding. So, Tal, if you move to next slide. So. First of all, I have true belief that everyone have superpowers, and we just need to enable it. So as a person who also not only, let's say, in a business for quite a while, but dealing with very talented colleagues and partners and people around me, what I'm happy to. I also a father, and my kids, of course, you know, have superpower as all of us, and I truly believe that you know, we can say about if you have kids, about your kids the same, but not only that. So sometimes one person have better in mathematics, another person better in our fields. In my experience in my life, I didn't saw a person who is perfect in all spectrum of abilities. So sometimes you are very, very good in sports, but not rocket science engineer. So one of my three kids from early childhood, we find out that he have some uniqueness. So his best toy was calculator, from what we remember, and also he started to speak at 4, but he started programming language at 6. So we also find out that it's quite difficult for the kids to build up communication with another kids and to participate in some crowded events. But it's some different part of it. But he is excellent in mathematics, in physics, in astronomy, in machine learning, programming. And because our event is about cybersecurity, so also have knowledge in as a cybersecurity analyst. So from one angle, no friends, and also very keen to not saying not true. So if it's black, it's black. If it's white, it's white. And from another hand, very unique abilities, what no one no one have in a, let's say, in wild scale. So yes, it's spectrum. So we find out it's quite early, and I was never accepting that as a father, but also as a person, as a problem. I always fight for that, but it's not kind of some, some disease or something what harms possibility to live normal life. And for me, it's very important. But my friends Gedrius and Barbora from Lithuanian Autism Association, also Tal experience, what he will present in a minute, just got confirmation of my beliefs. But it's not a problem; it's a matter of excellence, and that excellence give us motivation to, and that confirmation to move forward. So what we did with Gedrius and Barbora, and it's a training for 7 spectrum young adults in cyber. So in Vilnius, Lithuania, we have Cyber Gym Arena. What is the aim of train in real cyber attack and show how it looks advanced persistent threat in reality. And actually, my kid was not part of it, so it was kind of another spectrum young adults, and result was amazing. So what we find out, it's this group did one of the best results of fighting cyber attacks if we compare our 2-year experience of running these trainings. So for us, it was amazing and very, very important milestone. Then COVID happened, and we didn't move forward. So maybe for the reason, because in some time from now, we met Tal and start speaking about that in more professional way, because Tal have huge experience and his team how to run this kind of trainings. So what we understood also, what sometimes enablement are very easy, and sometimes it need a lot of support and investment and knowledge and understanding and experience how to do it. So I put here poster of X-Men First Class. So if someone familiar with that, so it's I like this movie not only because of that, so but because a lot of very interesting superpowers you can train, and what also Mindaugas told in the beginning. So I also believe that a lot of things you can train or empower, let's say, to help to empower. So for us, it's very important concept, and for us, it's very important goal and vision what we would like to do. I took it a little bit personally, and to show what I also open to speak about that, not only because it's a security issue, but because it's personal issue, and also true believer of possibility to use this superpower for wider, let's say, economy and wider understanding of usage of that superpower and excellence. So let me introduce Tal Vardi, who is co-founder and managing director of Ro'im Rachok program from Israel. Tal will present the program, and after that we will make some announcement about it. So Tal, stage is yours.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for inviting me. If somebody would ask me if that's what I'm going to do this evening, not much. That's very special for me. I want to show you what we are doing, and to just a sec. And I start to explain what is Ro'im Rachok. Ro'im Rachok in Hebrew, or if you translate it directly, is looking far or seeing far. And when we started it almost 9 years ago, we decided not to translate it because in Hebrew it has other meaning, and the other meaning is like looking into the future. So we decided to keep it as Ro'im Rachok. For some of us it's easy to say, I'm sure for others it's hard, but that's what it is. And we are talking about seeing the strength in people and seeing how we can do it. But before that, just to make you understand, we're dealing with young adults on the autistic spectrum. And to make some kind of common ground with all of us, I'll just shortly want to present the spectrum for those of you who are not so familiar. The spectrum today is divided to three severity levels. And you have the severity level 3 that's required much support. It's more likely the classic autism. And it's mainly you have lots of people in that are not are deaf or can't communicate. They're not verbal. And in the other side, you have severity level 1, that's the high function, can call. And the challenges over there is mostly communication and understanding social events. And this phenomena is was diagnosed or started to in research in the beginning of the last century, but the research developed much. And some phenomena that I want you to know is this one over here. And autism, I'll say 30 years ago, there was like one newborn baby on around 2000. And something happened in the last 2 or 3 decades that is unexplained rise in numbers. And you can see it, these numbers are coming from the United States, but you can see that when we started our journey in 2012, in the States, the number was 1 to 88. And 5 years ago in the States, it's 1 to 68. And this phenomena is all over the world. There's lots of research going around what happened, what changed in our communities and societies, and lots of different approaches. Some of us can say because of the digital era. And there's one interesting explanation that in the last 2 or 3 decades, these centers of high-tech industry were formed, like Silicon Valley, like Utrecht in Holland, like in Israel too. And that what's actually caused that couples that are most likely interested in science and mathematics and so on came together. And that's one of the explanations we're given. But for sure, there's rise in numbers. It was declared by the World Health Organization a few years ago as epidemic. Before the COVID came, it was declared as epidemic. So our vision is to provide young adults on the autistic spectrum the opportunity to enhance their strength in core professions, contributing to themselves and to the society in a meaningful way. And the vision is where translated in the goal, and the goal is an inclusion of young adults on the autistic spectrum in the military service and in civil workforce, utilizing their strengths and specific characteristics in needed professions. And the basic idea or principle that we are working with is to put together real need with real capabilities and to create win-win. What we understood when we started this journey, that it's not a matter of doing good or warm heart. The only thing that will allow this kind of activities to last for long is this formula: real need with plus real capabilities create win-win. Nobody of us wants a favor, especially not people that are diagnosed on the spectrum too. And so let's see if the spectrum has, people on the spectrum have challenges, communication challenges, social challenges, the sensory system is working differently. But on the other hand, when you look at it, so they do have high levels of concentrations. I'm talking generally because in the end of the day, each individual is different, but they're happy and excellent in repetitive tasks. They have a preference for routine and persisting in jobs, very reliable, find the working place is a good place and a very important place for them to be, loyalty and commitment to work, punctuality, honesty, and integrity. I think Markas talked about his son seeing the world black and white. Part of it is being honest. They speak directly, they say what they think, and that's one of the qualities that we can see. And when you look at all these and much more, they're very, very relevant to lots of tasks that are in the high-tech industry. But what we are using it, and before that, I would like to show you a clip about our program that maybe explain it much better.
Neta is our eldest son. He's a very happy boy. He always wanted to be like everybody else.
I would say that in every step of his life, we had question marks. Throughout the way, he struggled all the time with autism, and we struggled to find the right framework that will be the best for him.
He always knew that he wants to go to the army and to do something contributing. It's very important for him to be a part of the community.
IDF is a crucial milestone to go through in order to become a real, proud Israeli. For years, the IDF was closed for people with disabilities.
Ro'im Rachok program is about taking the visual capabilities of people with autism and making use of these abilities to help the IDF and the intelligence. It's very important to get everybody involved in the IDF. Autistics, for me, it's very important because my son is autistic.
We started the program with the idea that people on the autistic spectrum have special visual capabilities. And there's already science research that's proved that they see different. Some of them are doing aerial photo analyst. Some of them are doing quality assurance for software. Others, information sorting.
This is not a project of charity. This is a project of excellence. Now, once I was given proof that the kids that are going through the project of Ro'im Rachok could function in IDF, that's the time when Ono Academic College went into this project and said, let's bring this together and make sure that Israel could be proud of them and they could be proud of Israel.
Ro'im Rachok program gives these young adults an horizon for the future. We simulate as much the working day in the army so they can get ready. In these 3 months, they learn the military profession as well as how to be a soldier.
I remember the first day that he was getting in his uniform in the army. We saw someone stepping there, coming towards us, and we didn't believe it's our son. He was with uniform, very proud in himself, walking like that, very tall. And this was very, very exciting moment. You remember that?
Yeah, I do.
There is no difference between Ro'im Rachok soldiers and regular soldiers. Ro'im Rachok soldiers interpret satellite images and air photos to acquire relevant terrain data and deliver it to the commanders in the field. Our unit is also called the eye of the country. We are working day and night to secure Israel. This is the final task, to be safe.
It's a very important job because it's helpful for the IDF to see our enemies and help our troops to know the area. It's a great honor, but also great responsibility.
Once we introduced this program and people see what autistic people can do, I think it changes the way they see them, and it changes the stigma about autism.
It's win-win for the IDF, a win-win for the guy himself, and win-win for the family and us as society.
Because of this program, I am very optimistic about Neta's capability to integrate into the real life.
I'm sure now that Neta is going to be okay. He's going to be independent and to do the job he needs to do. Whatever he chooses, he will do it, and he will do it right. And he will do it good.
So this is Neta. He's from our first course, and he was aerial photo analyst. As you can see, it's dealing with visual data. And then afterwards, we added other professions like GIS, Geographic Information System Operators, software programming. I'm sure you know this field. Data tagging, new task that we started 3 years ago, became very, very useful for all AI systems that are needed. Information analysts, it's amazing job they're doing. It's actually going into the big wide web, collecting data from open sources to answering any question that can be asked. It can be used, of course, in the IDF, but later on in any kind of company. And electronics, that's more for manual guys that are happy to work in any kind of workshops, preparing equipment, building it, and so on. And at the end of the day, what we built as a program, this program, as you can see here, has 5 stages, and we became quite efficient in it. We started with locating and sorting. Not everyone is able to do the job, and we look at 2 main issues. One is the professional capabilities, and the other is how to become part of an organization. And then the stage 2 is a unique one, a training course of 3 months, 5 days a week. 50% of the time is the military or the profession itself. It doesn't have to be a military, but the profession itself. And the other 50 is all the work skills and life skills that are needed to become part of an organization. Then we created a trial period. And after, it's a 4 months trial period. And after that, in our case, they are recruited into the IDF and are serving as soldiers, volunteer soldiers, for a year plus year. In Israel, today it's 2 years and 8 months, the full service. And the most important part is the 5th one. is actually integrating in the civil workforce. And where we stand now, that since we started in 2013, last week we started our 20 course. It means that in the last years we are training around 70 new students each year. At this moment of time, there are more than 140 soldiers that are serving in 23 different units. It can be either in the Air Force or in the intelligence and doing the tasks. And more than 50 graduates are working with us in companies. Our team is more than 30 professions. And one thing important for us to know is that a person on the spectrum will need a professional support by either a speech therapist, occupational therapist, or mental therapist in working place all his working time. That's what we find out. And this support is needed not only for him, it's needed for his co-workers, his managers, and that's what makes the difference. And for you to see, so I want to show you something that we have with one of the companies that we're working with.
תוכנית רואים רחוק בעצם מאפשרת לכל בוגר על הרצף האוטיסטי לממש את היכולות ולהביא אותם לידי ביטוי בצבא.
הייתי בצבא, הייתי בחיל המודיעין, כי עבדתי שם כמפנח תצלומי אוויר בערך 3 שנים.
זה היה מאוד מעניין, ככה גם נחשפתי לכל מיני סוגים וגוונים של אנשים. ככה בעצם ראיתי, עוד לפני שהשתחררתי, את פסיפס החברה הישראלית.
נוצר שיתוף פעולה עם אינטל, שהביא לידי כך שאינטל הביאו את הצורך שלהם בסוג של מפענחים.
מה שעושים בדיפקט מטרולוגי זה בקרת איכות של הקו, וזה משהו שהוא מאוד דומה למה שרואים רחוק עושים בצבא. הם מפענחים תצלומי אוויר. במהלך היום שהם נמצאים פה, הם מפנים את כל החבר'ה האחרים שעובדים אצלנו בפעילויות אחרות, והם בעצם לוקחים את כל העבודה על עצמם.
העבודה שלי השפיעה מאוד על מחלקת ההנדסה. הם הבינו שהמכונה עשתה תקלה והם צריכים לתיקונים.
הבאנו את הבוגרים שלנו בעלי יכולות הפענוח, ועשינו בעצם את ההשתלבות שלהם בשוק העבודה ביחד.
העבודה שהם עושים היא עבודה לא פשוטה, שבן אדם נורמטיבי קשה לו לבצע אותה בצורה אחידה. ודווקא חבר'ה על הספקטרום האוטיסטי מצליחים לבצע אותה יום אחרי יום, באותה רצינות, באמת בצורה מעולה.
החבר'ה בצוות הם עושים לי בדברים וגם נותנים לי עצות בנוגע לעבודה.
כיף לי לדבר עם האנשים פה וגם כיף להם לדבר איתי, אני גם הדי-ג'יי.
זה ווין מאוד גדול מבחינתנו.
וזה נותן הרבה אושר וסיפוק פה לכולם.
זה כאילו פרויקט פורץ דרך, צעיר אוטיסט בתפקוד קבוע שרצה בעבודה באינטל.
אתה לא צריך לשבת להיות מובטל בבית, ושאתה באמת בא ועושה משהו שהוא מעניין.
מעבר לזה שהם עושים עבודה מצוינת ביום-יום, עושים עבודה מצוינת מבחינה מקצועית, הם הביאו משהו שכנראה היה חסר לנו עוד במפעל.
בצבא כל הזמן הייתי תלוי במפקד שלי שייתן לי עבודה, ופה אתה כן יכול להמציא לעצמך עבודה.
בעבודה, באינטרנט אתה יכול כאילו לחשוב מחוץ לקופסה, כאילו לחשוב דרכים אחרות, כאילו יצירתיות, כאילו.
לעבוד באינטל זו הצלחה, כי אני הרגשתי בעצם באמת שאני יכול לעשות כל מיני דברים.
אני בדרך הנכונה, בוא נגיד את זה ככה.
כן, טוב לי פה.
This is the journey of acceptance, and what I think is it's not acceptance only, it's every place that we find out that our graduates are there, it gives something much more than their working capabilities into the organizations. Thank you. And Markas, it's yours.
Yeah, hi again. So thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you, Tal. Yeah. I'm back.
Wait. Yeah.
No worries. So we are happy to announce that we will start Ro'im Rachok European program this year. So we are starting for recruiting of participants. For that, it's in a process. So as you see, our main idea here, it's and I may step back and say one thing, but during our experience, what we have with Cyber Gym trainings with Gedrius and Barbara, so few of the guys was not exiting home for 3 years. So it's quite a challenge for them to do recruiting. So we will have a special organizational and special professional preparation to do that together with Lithuanian Autistic Association, Lietuvos Vaikai. But for us, it's important to start inviting partners. So that's mean, as you saw in the last movie, Intel is a partner of Ro'im Rachok and many other companies known worldwide. And we also would like to invite companies also to join this program and benefit from that. So you have contacts of Tal, you have my contacts. So drop us email and contact us. We will provide all required information, but nevertheless, we decided to start. So we're starting this year, and we are more than happy if someone from audience decided to join the program. So we can prepare top class cybersecurity analyst, and also not because of charity, once again, because of excellence. So thank you very much for that opportunity. I think we was on time with our presentation, and Tal, thank you very much again for participating.
Thank you.
Thank you both. We do have, it really is an important topic, and thank you for sharing this. We do have a couple of questions. The first question is, you've talked about the support not only for the people in the autistic spectrum, but also for those working with them, their leaders, I assume, primarily. What kind of help do the people working with the people in the autistic spectrum need? What do they need to learn before being able to work effectively?
I'll answer it if you allow me. What we learned that before a person getting into the working place, we do what we call exposure. We give to the people that work with and to the managers exposure on the spectrum, what the challenges over there, and we run like workshops for managers that are starting to work with people on the spectrum before they get into the working place. And later on, when they start in the working place, our professional team coming in the beginning once a week and having some kind of discussions on the working hours with the employee, with the co-workers, and with the manager. And gradually it moves what we like to see as the goal to come into like once in 2 weeks or 1 or 3 weeks to come into the working place and to see what's going on. In the other way, but each individual has the ability to call the professional and to ask questions and to deal with challenges, because there are challenges. That's what everyone has to know. The managing time is different. The managing investment is quite different than other workers in one hand, but each individual is very different in this case. So the success in our case is how we put together the person in the right place. It means to fit into the right working place. That's one of the key things that make it happen. So the idea is to run for, in our case now, to run a course similar to what we are doing, to know the people good and to understand the companies too, so to be able to create this matching. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, yes, thank you. And we do have one more question, and that is, what are the possibilities for the autistic people outside of the analyst position in the ADF? For example, could they be a frontline soldier? Are you looking into those other possibilities?
Okay. You're talking about what we find out, and this is I'm saying in generally, okay? We are not looking in tasks that are real time, okay? We're looking in tasks that has, because sometimes when you have pressure, it's not the right environment, and we have to find the right environment for them. Some of them can be in this environment, but we have to look into it. So because of the IDF, because they are volunteers, especially with those on the spectrum, so they're not doing combat tasks, and they're doing only either intelligent or back office tasks. And for example, they're not sleeping in base in our case, okay? They are returning to the homes or to the living places, and they're not carrying weapon, okay? That's the criteria for them, allowing them to enter into the IDF. This is one hand. On the other hand, it's quite amazing to see what kind of work they're doing and what results they're doing. And it's in all different areas. If we have, let's say, a programming team that is built from 5 persons that are from the coast, and they have a commander, and they are working in a programming unit that are dealing with software, and to see the achievements and how they, in one hand, doing the task and how they become part of the unit, it's nice to have. But there's no secret around it. It's hard work. It's hard work, but it's possible. And we do have today, for example, we have guys that are working in Microsoft, are working in the that's international companies, but they're working in the Rafael. It's a security. It's a, let's say, defense company, and when you look at the working they're doing and the results that they're doing, it's worth to invest in it. And as you say in the beginning, this meeting is about the assets and how we keep, and you said about information, the second asset is manpower and the people you work with. And that's what makes a big difference. And I think today companies and big companies understand that one of the things that will allow them to cross any hurdle is it's the variety of people that they have. It's not, and this is really enlarging the variety and the possibilities of companies to face challenges. Thank you.
Wow. We also have one more comment in the chat that's saying that's, wow, what a program. And I totally agree. Oh, and we do have one more question. What are other possibilities for autistic people to integrate back into the communities?
Okay, in each country, I can speak about our country, but in each country, or let's say in European countries, you do have organizations that deal with people on the spectrum, and they do have support by governments and so on. In our case, we are working together with other organizations for housing. They go out, they leave the houses because the young adults age 18 to 25, and they do get the guidance and the training to be independent, living outside, and then they move into apartments in the community. And so once you have this angle of living places, and either if they want to study, so university does have kind of support for people on the spectrum, and then they have the working place. So most of the challenges are answered. There's others of marriage and building families. It's a big, lots of issues can be dealt, but what we understand, and that was said, I think before, some of our graduate, when we started, the people were waiting for years not doing anything at home. Research says that, let's say, people on the spectrum, more than 80% of them are unemployed. And those who are employed, most of them are underpaid and are doing tasks that are under their capabilities. And I think this, what we are talking about is to create the platform for people on the spectrum to be able to be productive and to go into excellency, to bring in the capabilities, and in the end of the day, to live happy life. And it can be done. I think that's all of us what we want.
Absolutely. And we have no more questions, and I think that's a very nice message to end on. So thank you again, and thank you everyone. There are a lot of people who help put up this meetup. Thank you again, all the speakers and everyone who watched us live. If you're interested in speaking and one of our meetups yourself, you can contact me. Next month, we'll discuss mental health. If you have stories to share about mental health, please write me an email at Mindaugas, my first name, mindaugas@vinted.com. And I hope to see you there. And have a nice evening, everyone who's watching us live. And see ya. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.